Good morning. Last day of NRF and everybody's feet is hurting, so I am so happy to be sitting down. And thank you for all of you for joining us today. My name is Azita Martin. I'm General Manager and Vice President of NVIDIA's AI technology for the retail industry. And today our session is going to be about how Kroger has embarked on a journey to use simulation and AI to ensure that their stores have the best configuration and layout for the best customer experience, anywhere from shopping within the store to fastest checkout experience. And so with me, I have two esteemed presenters, Wesley Rhodes, and I'm going to let Wesley introduce himself.
How are y'all doing? Before I introduce myself, let me also say we would like questions at the end. So do feel free to just store that question up and hit us with the hard ones. He'll be happy to answer each and every one. But prior to coming to Kroger, I spent 18 years with IBM. I was a consultant as well as Deputy Chief Technology Officer for U.S. Federal, the National Security and Defense Space. Last 5 years, I've been with Kroger in technology transformation. That's a trip in and of itself. And also for research and development, so focusing on innovation. My job basically is to leap over the competitors' capabilities, doing that with an advantage toward Kroger. That's a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, it's a blast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Furlan. I'm the general manager for our edge computing organization at Lenovo. So I'm responsible for all of the servers that we design, that we produce, that are smaller, more ruggedized, more compact, and designed to offer the same performance that you'll find in the cloud or the data center, but being deployed in grocery stores and retails all over the world. Good morning.
All right, terrific. So I'll set the stage, and Charles and I are going to actually co-moderate here, but our speaker here is really Wesley from Kroger. So we all know, some of the biggest challenges in the retail industry right now with inflation, with labor shortage. Every retailer is looking for productivity and being able to, at the same time, provide the best customer experience for their customers. And so this has become a really important area where retailers are focusing on how do you use AI, how to use technology to really provide the best customer experience, and at the same time protect your margins, as at the same time shrink is increasing with labor shortage and so forth. With that, I want to maybe first actually hand it over to Charles to ask Wes the first question.
I have the honor, Wes. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for participating today. So we've been working together on the digitalization of your store, and you deployed Edge AI already to reduce the errors at the self-checkout. Perhaps it's interesting if we could hear some of the first learning that you could share with the audience today of reducing those errors at the self-checkout.
So I'll tell you what, I would go back to maybe the reasoning why we went through all of this, right? So why spend the time to think about digital twin, simulation, why go through all of that? The whole reason for doing it is to reduce friction from our customers in their shopping experience. We want to use advanced technology to do that. The second thing we want to do is to increase our associate experience. Now, for the associate, we want to give them more time with the customer. So to do that, we've got to give them situational awareness. And all of these technologies do that. For the customer, besides reducing shrink, so when I think of shrink, variety of things I'll throw into shrink. It's food that went to waste. It's mistakes that got made by misreading. It is, we had an expiration of product. There's a lot of things that go into shrink. We're desperately trying to reduce those kinds of operational errors as quickly as we possibly can. This technology helps us do that. The other thing that we wanted to do, and what we got out of this entire exercise, is we're trying to go figure out how to reduce the time that the customer has to wait in specifically. So what's the right configuration of checkout options that gets them out the door quickly? And to do that, we had to do something that was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be, which is to hook up our simulation software to the digital twin. That was a story in of itself. You know, how to figure out all the right measurements that you have to take, how do you have to get them, how do you express that model and put it into the digital twin. That complexity, it's bigger than you think if you want it accurate, takes partners. And so that's kind of the early learning that we got, is how much work it is to get right.
All right. And then how about, so I guess one of the things we were talking about is it sounds like Kroger started the first journey in your digitalization was to reduce shrink at the front of the store, right? With some of the technology that you've deployed in all of your stores right now. I believe that's been out for 2 or 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah, reducing shrink and reducing labor, those are two big things we try and do, because that then decreases food price.
And a faster customer checkout.
That's right.
Right.
Faster customer checkout is achieved by we're getting the right checkout experience to the right customers.
Right.
The thing about the digital twin is it helps us simulate that. So when you go change a front end where you give this checkout option, that checkout option, this assisted lane and so forth, if you get it wrong, you can't go, well, wait a minute, gee, I got that wrong. Let me go reconfigure it. That does not happen overnight. That takes quite a bit of redo. So you really need to be accurate when you do it. So you have to have that data, do it correctly the first time. And that's what all of this comes up to do. To get those benefits, I've got to do a lot of things correctly.
All right. So for those of you who may not be familiar with some of the terminology, a digital twin is AI and simulation that enables you to create a physically accurate digital representation of any space. It could be your store, it could be your distribution center, and so as Wes alluded to, Kroger has embarked on this journey to actually create a digital twin of their store, where they would be able to simulate various configurations. So with that, maybe Wes, you can go a little bit deeper. And how did you start that? I mean, did you guys bring some CAD models of your stores into this, and kind of what's the, I know you guys are going in phases. Like, what's the first phase that you guys are focused on?
Well, if I work my way all the way back, so maybe I'll start just a little bit prior to that. The first phase is you have to pick the right innovation partners. That's kind of number one. And so who are you going to build digital twins with? So let me come back and kind of explain digital twin again, and I'm going to twist it around just a little bit. So digital twin is a electronic representation of something real. But digital twin can, as we'll talk a little bit later, can also be other things too. You can have other concepts. For us, we really wanted to get an understanding of that front-end experience, how you check out. We want to reduce the labor, we want to reduce the time and so forth that it takes to get out of the store. So the first thing you have to do is get a mapping, an understanding of that front end. What does it accurately look like? What does each device look like? Well, when you start on this journey, you better have the right partners, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them. You need a capability from each one. So we actually started it a year earlier looking for the right innovation partners. So we looked at quite a few. And we landed on NVIDIA because they had the right software to visualize it, right software to help us get that digital twin built, the right software to help exploit it. There's a number of partners that you have to compute it and so forth. So number one, how do I take all this complication, all this complexity, and then when I get it all built and I'm trying to explain to somebody, it looks smooth. You can take this massive amounts of math and visualize it in a way that communicates to our executives. they don't want us to spend an hour talking to them about mathematical equations. They want to be able to see, oh, I see, they're bumping into each other here and there, and this doesn't work and that doesn't work. Let me rechange a different configuration. So number one, you get the right partner that has the right software. Number two, you get an accurate understanding of the store. Number three, you have an accurate representation and understanding of each device that they're going to interact with. Number four, you understand the physics that are in that store because it has to then be applied in a way that is physically correct. So all the actors that you're going to have move around inside the store, they have to interact correctly with each other like real people do. And that's how we get started. What am I going to go? The front end. They're going to interact, people are going to interact with devices that get them out of the store within a certain amount of space. And the physics of that space for turning and how they're going to interact with people and so forth have all got to be calculated. Now I have to add the real data that I've got in the store so I understand how they really are coming through our store and the arrival rates and so forth. So that's how we get started with, is it building the digital twin, adding the right data in the right way, unique to the store, digitally first, and then you add it to the dimensionalities in the physical store itself.
All right, well, that's fantastic. What I thought we'd do is, Wes has a demo, and we're going to show you this demo. It's about a minute and a half. And then we'll go a little bit deeper into, is this real? Is this fake? Because ultimately the digital twin is connected to the physical store. And you're able to actually simulate different configurations and realize how the impact is. So we'll talk a little bit more through all of that. But I thought, a picture always speaks a million words. So let's go ahead and play the demo, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Kroger is a customer-first company. Everything we do is to provide the best customer shopping experience, help customers find what they're looking for, and provide them with a fast and easy checkout experience. We've embarked on a journey to use simulation and visualization capabilities from NVIDIA Omniverse and Isaac Sim to optimize the front of the store for faster checkout. The goal is to simulate variations of the self-checkout and cashier-assisted checkout lanes before making any investments in implementing those changes in the physical store. To do this, we're using NVIDIA Omniverse to create a physically accurate digital representation of a store that will ultimately be synchronized in real time with its physical store. The first step is to import the CAD model of the store from Autodesk Revit into NVIDIA Omniverse and create its digital twin environment. We then use Isaac Sim to simulate the shopping journey of customers, placing simulated shoppers into the digital twin. This digital twin enables us to visualize the baseline of certain metrics, like customer queue times, and test various checkout configurations digitally to understand the impact on checkout times as measured by our 2D simulation system. This enables us to optimize the checkout configuration at the front of the store. For example, our current store has 4 self-checkout lanes and 4 cashier-assisted lanes, with an average checkout time of 80 seconds. Given the labor shortage, let's measure the customer queue time if we reduce 1 cashier-assisted lane and add 2 self-checkout lanes. The simulation shows us that on average, this new configuration will reduce checkout times by 27 seconds, from 80 to 53 seconds, and enable us to address our labor shortage during peak shopping hours with 1 less cashier. This gives us the confidence to make these changes in the physical stores and operate efficiently despite the labor shortage.
All right, so that's kind of a little peek on where Kroger is in their journey. And maybe, Wes, you can talk about, so you've got this, you already have this other technology called Simulate that measures the wait time of customers. How do you bring that into Omniverse to be able to then measure what it was before, and when you're simulating, what is it like? How is it going to impact the queue time for your customers?
All righty, so one thing I want to tell you about the video is from Simulate, our simulation software, we'll bring those figures in. Now, what I did not want to show you today is every correct figure that we have, because that also gives away a little bit more about our operation than I care to share. So some of that is competitive sensitive. So in those cases, I changed some of the numbers so you wouldn't see exactly every bit. So you could go back to your own math people and start rederiving other figures. So that is part of our data that is real. And I went and took some synthetic data to go put in so that those other very important figures you couldn't rederive. So let me just tell you that. The way that we do it in-house is we've got cameras that are in the stores that observe part of our customers, so I can get when they walk up what time it takes for them to scan, what their basket sizes are, and so forth. So I've got the ability to get a variety of different pieces of data. I've got other sensors that tell me pieces of data. There's a lot of data that I need in order to feed into a simulation software. So Simulate takes all these different figures of queue times, scan times, what kind of product are we putting in, et cetera. And then we run the simulation. So we also have to tell it what are these physical devices that they're interacting with. And there's various pieces of detail that you have to put in about the physical devices and how they're interacting. So it's detailed oriented, lots of data. But once you have that base of how the human is going to check out, a specific human, and then how the devices interact with the human, and how the human interacts in the environment, voila, I've got the bones that are necessary to say, well, how do I swap this out? What happens? What happens if I increase the number of customers? My throughput rate inside this store format, it increases by 30%. What happens there? That's the whole idea. If I'm going to change variables, what's the most likely output? In some cases, you just cannot get some data that you need. The software itself has got some statistical capabilities to generate the little pieces of data that you may not observe. So that's synthetic data also. But that's really the deal. It creates all this information. We then take those data through an API and we put them into the software that's generating these visuals that you see, and then off it goes. From that, we can then look and determine for the various parameters that we're looking at exactly how this works. You see the visuals, and we can see if they're crashing into each other. Did it increase the amount of time, decrease the amount of time, and the basket size increase, decrease, and that helps us understand what is the right configuration for this store in this neighborhood, and is that, have we generated enough space? Do we have enough people? What time should we bring people up to the front lines? That's just one piece of how you do this. Now that we have it digitized, by the way, there's 1,000 other things that you can do as you integrate them with your other systems. And that's kind of another part of the story.
Yeah. And what's important, obviously, is making changes like that in a real store is expensive and can really have negative impact, right? So if you're able to actually do that in a simulated environment and figure out what is the most optimized configuration, that's really what's going to deliver the business benefits and the ROI. So Charles, I'll turn to you. So Lenovo obviously has been a great partner. What are some of the areas that you're partnering with AI initiatives with retailers?
Thank you, Ezita. So it's a good question, and you might know Lenovo for being a laptop company. You might be a customer, and thank you for the business, but we do more than a laptop. Obviously, in the retail environment, we can provide ruggedized tablets, laptop, phones as well to be part of a point of sale solution. But we also have AI innovation centers. So we have a lab with data scientists that talk to hundreds of software vendors that are specializing in the retail environment and providing value to retailer like Kroger by monitoring the time to check out and all of these software that offer different function. We also have a fabulous services company. So Lenovo is present in 180 markets around the world with the ability to deliver on-site services, do the installation, the monitoring, the replacement for mission-critical type of retailer out there. But perhaps the most important thing that we've seen, or the innovation that we've seen in the last few years, is around edge computing. Because to enable such use cases requires a massive amount of data being processed at the store, right? So, and obviously in a retail environment, you do not have a server room or a data center on premise. You need to have the same powerful compute capability to represent this environment, but in a much more compact form factor, right? And this is where we have innovated for retailer, where we designed a portfolio of product called Think Edge, which basically is designed to operate in these type of spaces where it's no air conditioning, no lot of material or fabrics in the store. So we provide equipment that is ruggedized enough to operate in this type of environment. We also provide equipment that is more secure, because once you leave the secure perimeter of the data center where you have fence, guards, locked door, and now you have this in the back office of your grocery or your store, obviously people have access to the device and people have access to the data. So we put a lot of innovation in securing the physical device itself with having some special locks, having some special motion detector. So if somebody steals the device, it erases automatically so that the data itself is protected, right? So we have participated a lot and collaborate a lot with NVIDIA to have our portfolio fully NVIDIA certified, especially around the OVX, the digital twin on the Omniverse that we have just demoed. In this context, require a massive amount of power, and we have been one of the first, if not the first server vendor to have an equipment line certified with NVIDIA OVX.
Perfect. Thank you.
So on that note, though, I know NVIDIA is contributing a lot to many use cases across AI and retailer. Maybe, Azita, you care to share some of these examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think another area obviously is supply chain and distribution centers, right? And again, this type of simulation allows you to simulate and create a digital representation of your distribution centers. And again, ways to use that technology to look at different layouts of the distribution centers, which is much more expensive to try to do that in the real physical environment. And that on average is showing 30% improvement in throughput in the distribution centers. And we're working right now with a major consumer packaged good company that is doing that in one of their distribution centers, and very soon rolling that out to all of their hundreds of distribution centers. So these kind of technologies obviously applies to any physical environment. We have a major company that produces consumer products that we wear, that is doing simulation and design of their athletic shoes, and be able to really see that design in a 3D dimension, photorealistic, with lighting and true photorealistic images of products that customers would be interested in. And then, of course, finally, the metaverse, right? I mean, a lot of consumers now want to, instead of going into a store, go into the metaverse and try clothing on, or see what a couch or a vanity is going to look like in their home. And in fact, one of our customers, Lowe's, I know they're here, they're doing that. In fact, they talked about it Sunday, how they're actually doing simulation of their stores and creating those 3D assets and having those available to other developers that want to create metaverse using some of the products that are available in Lowe's stores. So there's really different applications of this type of AI technology, whether it's for optimizing your stores, optimizing your distribution centers, or creating a different shopping experience using the metaverse for your customers.
But this is this is cutting edge technology. What type of skill set do you expect when you talk to customers? What type of skill set do you see required to operate that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that obviously it requires AI developers, but it also, we see that some of the most successful deployments is an augmented team that retailers are using their teams, and they're partnering with, one of our solution providers like a global system integrator or NSI that maybe is helping them with creating 3D assets, because creating 3D assets requires a combination of like creative skill set and of course what some of our customers have experts in their team that come from the video game industry, and not everybody in retail has people on their teams with video games. So I would say that we see these type of deployments ultimately be a combination of the team at the retailer with some kind of a partner that either augments their team or creates the 3D assets for them, or they have experts on their team that have the 3D asset creation capabilities. All right, back to Wes. We saw this demo, and we want to kind of understand, what is next, right? Like, where are you taking this? You've obviously started with the front of the store. So tell us a little bit more how, you talked about the various steps in the journey.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about, where do you think, is this like a demo? Is it the end of all things that you show to your CEO, Rodney, or, how does that work?
So for us, we're building blocks of capability. So the digital twin for the front of the store is the same process that we use for every other digital twin that we will do. It's the same workflow. So what's the value of doing that front of the store? Well, it taught us how to build the digital twin. So now we understand all those different skills that we need. We certainly use a lot of Lenovo servers. We use NVIDIA equipment where we're exploring the use of avatars and where they fit in a variety of different spaces inside our future plans. But kind of think of it, let's go back and think of digital twin in maybe a little different way, and then what I'm going to say makes a little bit more sense. So digital twin, it is a digital representation of a physical thing, right? So what does it take to make a digital twin? Well, I've got to be able to describe it. I've got to be able to say that it's going to be of business value, or I wouldn't go after it. I need to be able to get some kind of measurement of it so I understand what its bounding is. It has a beginning, it's got a middle, it's got an end. I can understand where the value creation is. So that means that I can also use it for a process. I can use it for some concepts. So if I start thinking about this, then I can start looking at digital twins and how they start communicating with other digital twins as I think about it going over from one place to another place to another place in the store. We use AI to then determine what cuts of meat to put into play 30, 45 minutes, an hour before the demand. So we have those kinds of innovations already in the store. So can I take a digital twin of fresh? So fresh is bakery and cheese and other things that expire very quickly, breads and so forth. Can I make digital twins of that? Yes, I can, of their operations. Can I have it integrate with AI? Yes, I can, to determine how to, as you were talking about shrink earlier, how to minimize the ingredients. Only use ingredients when I need. Don't waste the bread. Don't make too much. Have the things faced as soon as possible, but just prior to the demand. So I'm thinking about the digital twins in every aspect of the store, managed by AIs that are talking to them and optimizing them, talking with each other. So we just start mapping out, where can one digital twin talk to another? How can they be optimized by AI? How can they then lower cost? How can they keep track of products and customers owning those products and ordering them all the way back from the warehouses so I don't get too much? I serve them only when I need them, so I'm not clogging up the back end. Back further to supply chain, optimize the supply chain, Now, you saw how it was easy to see where there might be conflicts when I visualized it. I took all that math, all those concepts, all those data points, and I visualized it. Made it so easy to say, whoops, I have customers crashing each other. I need to widen the space in between this. I need to do that. I need to have some construction to make it to where they can make those turns and those velocities of when I have more people coming through, et cetera. I have the same things in warehouses, in truck bays, in the supply chain. Visualizing it makes it so much easier to understand what to do. So it's just the beginning, but we learn the lessons. We learn how things talk, how things visualize, how to collect the right information, and then how to compute on it. And so we're just going to be building and expanding the models, and then be replicating the models in other areas, and then hooking them up and letting them talk.
You also, beyond digital twins, are using machine learning, for example, for first mile and last mile delivery in terms of getting the freshest products to your customers as well, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we know that as a customer comes in, they want a lot of choices. So what AI is also good for is reducing the complexities of a lot of choices, of a lot of products, of a lot of capabilities, taking all that complexity away of those many choices, and then reducing those choices to the customer to what is best for them, appropriate for them where they are, given other constraints that they may have. So how do I take all of this wonderful set of choices and products and things and such, and then make it simple to be picked by the customer, given other constraints they may have on their time or their location and so forth. So AI can be used to simplify their interaction with the company's many complex choices that they may have. That's what I see as another way of thinking of AI when it comes to last mile, controlling our ability to go the last mile, looking at schedules and picking the best options, looking at location, picking the best option if we know their location, if we know what our slots are, if we know the best place to pick from, and so forth. So it's just a way to say, hey, this is of the many options, here's your best three. What's most convenient for you? Do you want more? The bottom line is this: life is complicated. It's just is. And every time we make something more convenient for somebody, it throws another option, makes it more complicated. So somewhere along the line, you have to make this less complicated. Somehow, somewhere, more choices have to be compressed to fewer, but more personalized to the person that is receiving the choices. Number one, I don't like to wait, so get me out of the store fast. Number two, I'm only going to be concerned about the things that are applicable to me. So how about get this noise out of the way and give me just the things that I want to see. I've got other issues that I would like to tell you about, like, hey, I'm on a diet. I may not be on it for long, but I am right now. So could I have lower calorie options? And I'd like to tell you about that. And then when I don't want to tell you about it, I would like all the fat options because I'm on the delicious diet today. It's a holiday, give me more. But I want to tell you things, have you considered that and roll those into your choices and then get all the noise out of the way. I'm not looking for salad today. I want something decadent. And just have that rolled into it. So technology is perfect for this. And I need the servers and the computation for that. But more importantly, I need the security for that because I need it to the edge. I don't want any of my data to be leaked away. I want the data that's floating around the air to be safe. I want the data at rest to be safe. So you mentioned the edge a little bit ago. The edge is all important. The edge is defined as the closest point that I can interact with the customer securely. We come to people that secure the edge, and that's why we pick these partners so intently. Now, also understand we're R&D, so the minute I get something working doesn't mean the company's going to run right out and go put it in. Sometimes they like to wait, and they like to go complete with other things. But that's the kind of stuff we're working on. make this stuff work out. And we use computation, lots of GPUs, lots of CPUs, all this software to make it simple and easy.
Excellent. What about e-commerce and, you guys are now doing, fast delivery. What about like recommendation system? Is that something you're looking into as well?
Half of Kroger is looking into that. The recommendations, e-commerce is big for us. So kind of how am I looking at it? I tend to look at it differently than everybody else. I mean, I look to disrupt, so of course I would look at it a little differently. For me, the way I look at it as, now I'll call it hyper-personalization. So obviously I'm going to go grab as much data as I possibly can find and try and anticipate needs and so forth. So the way I might do it differently is just doing it at a much granular scale and doing it very, very fast. And so where I would be bending my research and capabilities would be at the edge being maybe your phone, but I'd be looking past the phone, saying, how can I do it without the phone? How can I do it to a very granular basis so I really understand you right this minute in your condition where you are at right this moment? I look at, this is not a Kroger statement, but I look at shopping as a continuous event. You may start it online, you may finish it in the store, but I just see it always as something you're just pausing. And I just want to know when you're pausing it and you're going to a store to fulfill another component of it versus when you started a new need and then you're taking a different route and then you feel that like there was an emergency, you need to do something else, then you're coming back to that other routine, and just make that as easy for you to understand that I'm remembering that you did an emergency purchase versus back on your other routine, and understand that and make that shopping trip as easy for you as possible. Like no promotions, you're in here to go buy a gift and a birthday card, and you're just going to run back through and get candles. Let me show you where that stuff is. I understand that and go. I might be looking at all those kinds of things so I know what your intent is, and I just try and get the noise out of the way, get you there, get you out, and so forth. But I do want to understand and harmonize that digital property buy and the physical property buy. I'll do that all on the edge. So once again, I'm coming back to more edge delivery, understanding all the different wearables you might have, and just trying to figure out how do I make that to where it's not creepy to you, but it's beneficial. And again, like I said, the company may or may not decide that that's something they want to expose, but I'll be looking at it. I'll be trying to make that work. They pick, maybe with better judgment, that yes, this is something we use, this is something we do not, but I will be looking for the best, most advanced way to give a person choice.
Excellent.
Thank you, Wes. I mean, so far we've been talking a lot about digital twin and simulation and the benefit that it brings, but this is one of the technology. Obviously, AI enables a lot of other use cases. I know, Azita, maybe you want to share some of the other retail use cases that we've seen with Edge AI.
Yeah, again, back to supply chain, for example, demand forecasting optimization, right? There's a lot of technologies out there, a lot of retailers are implementing, software solutions that have been around for a long time. But again, there's, new players in the market that are using artificial intelligence. We have some customers that want to build their demand forecasting themselves because they want to leverage AI and not only be able to look at historical data of what products customers buy, but we all know that customers' buying behavior is dramatically changing. It gets impacted by events that are going on, weather forecasts, what's going on social media, and all of those kind of things. And so again, AI is really an incredible capability for fine-tuning demand forecasting, by store, and location of those stores, and not only the historical buying behavior, but also what is going to drive changes in the consumer buying area. So that's certainly one area we've seen. And again, kind of adding to what Wes was saying, we're seeing a big use of AI for truck routing optimization for last mile delivery, right? And imagine, very, very large retailers that have, thousands of deliveries a day, and they have refrigerated trucks because you're carrying food, you're delivering food, and somebody, a truck breaks down, or one of your drivers calls sick. You need to be able to really quickly rerun your entire routing and figure out where's all that food that's going to be in that refrigerated truck, where's it going to go, which truck is it going to go in for the fastest delivery. And again, we've got customers that are using AI for that, and they're actually saving about 85 cents per delivery in fuel cost alone, which all of us obviously know with rising gas prices, that's really, really a big area as well. And so with that, I think Charles wanted to kind of wrap it up with you and maybe ask you, you're in charge of edge technology, and a lot of companies are moving workloads to the cloud.
Yeah.
But there's certain workloads that really have to happen in sub-seconds in real time, right? Because AI is providing a recommendation to, let's say, stop theft with that. So can you tell us a little bit more? When does it make sense to go into the cloud with AI, and when does it make sense to be at the edge?
It's a good question, because usually people at this point look at me and say, well, hold on, we're talking about introducing computing capability in each store or in each location. And they look at me and say, hey, this industry is completely mad in the IT industry, because we started very centralized with mainframes where everything was in one location. And then we moved completely to the other side where we had what is called client-server type of architecture. And then we went all the way to the cloud. And here I am today, say, hey, well, now we need to introduce compute capability at the edge. So it's not a job security type of strategy here. It's really, when you think about it, the processing always followed the data. The center of gravity had always been the data. And right now, with all of the cameras in high definition, with all of the sensors, all of the data being generated inside of the grocery store or inside of the retail location is massive, is way more than the amount of data that we're creating in the cloud, the PowerPoint files and documents like that. So it makes sense to bring the compute capability closer to where the data is actually created, in this case, in the store, to process the data. Now, you've mentioned the response time. Not every store will have high-speed fiber connectivity to the cloud, nor should they, right? So you need to be able to operate the store, make decision very fast. When you're doing your self-checkout, you cannot afford to bring the data all the way to the cloud, process it, return the insight that, hey, somebody forgot to scan something. Well, it might be too late, right? So that processing needs to happen in the store. When the person forgets to scan an object, for example, right then and there, the cameras in the store detects it, the low edge servers in the store process it, and sends back a notification, right, within a few milliseconds. So that's a context where some of the workload, because they're too heavy to bring all of the traffic all the time to the cloud, or because some of the retail locations do not have high-speed connectivity, it makes a lot of sense to bring the compute capability directly where the data is actually created at the edge.
Especially when you're using camera technology for that.
Especially when you're using camera in high definition and capturing all of this input 24/7, the volume being generated there needs to be processed, find out the insight, and only export the insight to the cloud.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up with one final question for Wes. And I think, Wes, you talked quite a lot, improving the customer shopping experience. But there's a lot of operational efficiencies in in this. And you've talked about some of them, but maybe just to wrap it up, if you could summarize some of the operation efficiencies that these AI initiatives are bringing to Kroger.
I think one of the I think the best way to summarize it is inside of a store, Kroger certainly has a gazillion sensors. We know whether doors are open or closed, how long the cold zones or their temperatures, and are they at temperature or not. And we look at product that is supposed to be in a frozen zone. Was it mislabeled and put by a customer, maybe over in the cereal aisle or something, as they didn't want that anymore? We can track and see what's going on. Cameras see that. But the point is that the amount of sensors that you have that are telling you all the various things around a store, they can all be collected up. And then at the moment, they all have a spot purpose. The camera can see 1,000 different things that can be then combined with all these other sensors, and collectively put together, they have a significant amount more meaning. You have a total store awareness. With that, you then can take the labor that it takes to run a store, and you can use it so much more efficiently. Every one of our associates want to be with the customer. They just have to do all these other things to keep a store clean and working and effective, etc. But how do you do it today? You have to routinely just start checking. We have to keep this clean, that clean, this clean, that clean. You have to check. But if I can see all these things, if I can understand how the store is running with all these other sensors, then I can have AI look at all this and say, this is okay, that's okay, this okay. So why check it? So I can go from a routine labor-directed store to a situation where AI can just make a task list and say, you are now needed over here. You're now needed over there. Don't worry about everything else. It's fine. I've already looked. It's good to go. So that allows us to give another level of customer service. It allows us to save a lot of labor by just not repetitively doing things that don't need to be done. Additionally, it allows us to take food that would have spoiled and get it right back to where it needed to be, because we know how long it's been out of what zone. We know what's safe. We know what's not. It allows us to reduce the amount of shrink that keeps prices low, save on the labor because now they can be with the customer and offer better service. Additionally, it allows us to understand where the crowded points are within the store and predict where the crowded points are going to be on the store, so we can pre-stock places with all the right goods. All in all, my point is that when you understand how the store is really working well, in of itself, the store is going to operate really efficiently at less costs, with higher revenue. That's an efficient store.
Well, fantastic. So with that, I'd love to open it up to all of you. If you have any questions about how to get started or anything else, I'd be happy to.
There's a microphone there, yeah.
My name is Eric, and I have been working on different continents, if so to speak. Over a decade ago, I worked for Kroger in IT, customer service, and some of those areas. And I know that the customer service and customer satisfaction has always been very important for Kroger. And I can see when I listen to this presentation that you, Mr. Wesley, and other great presenters did, that it's still important. Now, my question is that when we are talking about simulation, which is workflows and processes, how do you plug into measuring and measurements of the customer satisfaction to those processes and decision making? My past decade in Scandinavia, I have been introduced a lot into measuring customer service levels and customer satisfaction. So when you do those decisions based on simulations, how do you take in account the impact of how does the decisions impact the customer satisfaction?
So 8451 is an analytics company that Kroger owns. They do an unbelievable great work figuring out what's the wait time that we should be under, a variety of other statistics that make up a board of metrics that we've got to ensure that they're the calls are answered within a certain amount of time, wait times for customers in the queue, and so forth. And so that's their research is what really makes that up. They do a variety of they'll do a statistical analysis, they'll do measurements across, other industries or competitors to see what theirs are like, so we understand where we stack up, et cetera, et cetera. They'll do panels of customers and ask them what their opinions are and what their satisfaction is. So it's just a whole slew of things. I'm sure I'm leaving out tons of other things they do, but we're actually just handed those values. We're not deriving that ourselves, but that company does all the testing and the double-blind testing and everything else. They've all got PhDs in one discipline or another to figure that out. So I'm just more of a recipient.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. You mentioned a technical term of Kroger having gazillions of data points and sensors in the stores, which is probably very accurate and hard to manage, and probably many different software solutions that are providing certain point solutions for either shrink, loss prevention, analytics of traffic, and all of the other things that you're doing, measuring temperature. Do you have a strategy or viewpoint on how to combine these separate solutions from separate ISVs, generating different data points and data lakes to make insights that can actually cross between these solutions? So security for also helping you with inventory and helping you with associate optimization. How do you share that data and how do you make it more efficient in the stores?
So the question was embedded the problem, right? So the problem is lots of different solutions, lots of data exploding everywhere. And then the question is there a strategy for how to manage that, and is that being executed? Kroger is two things. It is a customer company. Customer service is number one for us. Number two, we're an analytical company, a data company. That's how we figure out so many things about our customer to help that customer along. And so, yes, do we have the problem? Everybody has that problem. And if we didn't have it yesterday, we got it today because it's constantly increasing. And they have a strategy in place that they've been working on and will continue to work on and probably will always be working on because it's always coming in one other way or another. It springs up. About the time you think you whip it, you get it again. So yes, and we're a multi-cloud vendor. We've got data lakes. We've got the whole 9 yards. And they're continuously working on strategies that compress those solutions, eliminate redundancy, constantly pruning that data. Just love those people that are doing all of that, but that's a large effort for us that is continuous.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right.
Anybody
other
else?
questions?
I just had a quick question. You had mentioned that this was your first data twin
I
project.
can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. You had mentioned that this is your first data twin project for the self-checkout. And I was curious, when did you start it? And you also mentioned that this was the kickoff for a lot of other data twin projects. And I was curious what you are working on now with other data twins.
So it took us a number of months to work on that. After finding innovation partner and figuring out kind of what we wanted to do, kind of learning how to do it took a while. Sometimes it hit the scrap heap, you come back and you redo it again a little bit better. Learning the visualization took us a while. We had to learn the software, et cetera. So that took quite a number of months. So what am I working on?
I think you started with the front of the store, and where's it going next?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think exactly what I would say. Because I actually don't want to go through the whole progression, but let's say that obviously we started at the customer's largest pain point, which is going to be that get me out of the store. I cannot wait any longer. It really upsets me a lot. That's a great place to start. It's also where a lot of labor is. So it has a cost component to it. So the way I think of these things is I think of, well, where else can I go to accelerate digitization of the store? So I kind of start working my way back through a map. So I think of merchandising, I think of the supply chain, I think of stocking, I think of where does a digital twin fit that can be kind of a quick win for me so I can accelerate my solution. Again, my preference is to buy. If I can buy something that does that, I want to do that. If I can collaborate or partner with somebody, if I can't buy it, then I do that. And if I have to build it, then I will. But that's kind of my last option because, that's the longest straw in the hand. It's also the largest cost, but it's time to market that I go for. So some of that is priority is there a solution out there that can ramp me up? What my priority is to get to the next digital twin as quickly as I can in another area that I can do so I can go after the value, which is having two digital twins complement each other and talk and build an AI on top of it that can accelerate the communication for value, because that's another model. And then after that, I'll go to the next one where I'm going to go talk to another department, another business pillar within the company and orchestrate something. That would be another one, because that's another key component I have to learn. And then I'll put a bus system in, right? I mean, you see how I'm just kind of walking from thing to thing to thing that orchestrates an ecosystem. And then once I have an ecosystem, I'll go to another disparate part of the company and put that ecosystem in and have those two talk with each other. So there is probably a more logical thought process as I would walk through a business, but I'm trying to develop the technology, so I'm thinking of it a time to market and what's available to me, trying to not build if possible. Why didn't I first?
When did this project start? It started in October.
Yeah, about mid-October.
Yeah. I mean,
probably
it
have
helps
one more
with merchandising as well, right? You understand the flow of the customers, how they're shopping, and you can actually change your planograms and you can change your layouts. Guys, we've got 2 minutes left, so we've got
Last
30
question.
seconds for a question and 1 minute for an answer.
Yeah, it's a quick one. We're glad to see digital twins currently in retail, as in you're trialing out. Usually, as in it's in slideware, so now I'm seeing the realware elements around that. So glad to see. We've seen, and in transport, we've seen with Okada doing, with Tesco doing, but Kroger's doing great on this one. My key question is, how do you want to scale this up, and and how do you want to, democratize this digital twin across your business?
I really didn't catch the question.
What's that?
I did not catch that question.
How are you going to scale the digital
this?
twin from R&D into the real?
How do I scale 2,000 stores? I'll create a model. I'll make that a deployable unit. I don't care what the format is. We make these things such that I can take it as a deployable package and send it out. So it will integrate in. I'll put the intelligence in that it will integrate in those systems the same way. We don't go tailor them for one store or not. It has to be a unified deploy that will cook in and go.
And of course, you guys partner with a global system integrator, a major integrator.
Yeah.
That's probably going to help with that too. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I really appreciate it, and happy to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you. Thank you.